Hello, boys and girls. This is Miss Goodrich coming at you live from my home office. This week, April 27th through May 1st, we are going to be learning about poetry. So stay tuned for our instructional video. This week, we are reading poems, which I'm super excited about. We're moving on a little bit from nonfiction texts and biographical texts. So this week, we're going to be reading some poetry. I've included a poem that I thought was really special during this time. This is a poem by Shel Silverstein, and it's called How Many, How Much? And while I'm reading this poem to you today, I want you to think about how does this apply to your life right now? How many slams in an old screen door depends how loud you shut it. How many slices in a bread depends how thin you cut it. How much good inside a day depends how good you live them. How much love inside a friend depends how much you give them. So as much as we're all missing our friends right now, this is a good reminder just to still try and reach out to those friends and be on our Zoom meetings so you can communicate with them and love them from afar. Some important vocabulary for the week. There's actually not a whole lot of difficult vocabulary while you're reading through, but I did pick out a few words and phrases that are important to know. The first one is nonsense. So you're going to be reading some nonsense poems, and nonsense poems sometimes have written words that do not necessarily make sense. They're just kind of silly and fun. Another important word is bore. So if something is a bore, it's something that is boring. Sometimes you might read a book and you get a couple chapters into it and you think, man, this book is really a bore. Another important word or phrase, I should say, is a simile actually, and it's good as gold. So if something is as good as gold, it really just means it's really good. Gold is a good thing, it's really valuable and nice. So something good as gold is really good. And then the last word you're going to see is pronounced, and it means just to say something clearly in a correct way. So the first thing that I want you guys to think about while you're reading your poetry is your elements of poetry. And you guys, if you have your notebooks at home, you have this page in your notebook somewhere. So I can read to explain what a poem is about and to determine the theme using details. So poetry, we have our little iPoetry playlist right here and some important elements of poetry that we've learned about. Poetry is written in lines called verses. Verses are grouped in stanzas. So we said that a sentence in a poem is a lot like a verse, and a paragraph in a poem is a lot like a stanza. Another important thing to know is that many poems rhyme, but not all poems. Poems have rhythm and meter created by stressed and unstressed syllables. Those are the elements of poetry that make it kind of sound like a song. Many poems have themes, and a theme is a little bit different than a main idea. A theme is a lesson where a main idea would be what a text is about. So many poems have lessons or common ideas strung throughout them. And then lastly, they're written to entertain or express emotion. This week, we're also going to be working on making inferences about a text. I can read to make inferences to figure out what a poem does not say directly, using details to support my inferences. So remember, we've learned a lot and talked a lot about inferences this year. While you're making inferences, the first step you're doing is you're noticing clues about ideas in the text. Those are your text clues. The second thing you're doing is combine the clues with what you already know with your background knowledge. And then lastly, you're stating an idea, and that idea is your inference. So in order to make an inference, you really have to focus on text clues, what it says in the text, your own background knowledge, what you know, and then combining those two things together to make an inference. I'm going to be asking you a lot about different text clues that can support an inference. Remember, an inference is not something that's in the text, it's something that you think or can infer about the text. Okay? While you're working through your task this week, as always, reach out to me on Edsby or on Remind if you have any questions, and I look forward to hearing from you guys.